The shuttle pierced the atmosphere of Roken with a low, guttural hum, its hull trembling against the thick violet clouds as it descended. Inside, Staff Sergeant Alara Mendez sat rigid and silent, her dark eyes fixed on a display screen that showed the sprawling Imperial outpost below. To her left, 2 Trident soldiers, 8-foot-tall reptilian brutes, snorted derisively, speaking in low tones that didn't quite mask their amusement. "So this is Earth's best?" "They sent a child in soft-skin armor," one muttered, glancing sideways. "Where's the rest of her unit? Still learning to hold a rifle?" Alara didn't flinch. She had learned early that silence was sharper than retort. Words couldn't win over beings who dismissed her before she stepped off the ramp. Instead, she let their contempt settle around her like smoke, annoying but not suffocating. She had come to Roken for a reason, and it had nothing to do with earning their approval. When the shuttle doors hissed open, a rush of metallic air hit her face. The outpost was a jagged cluster of alloy towers and grav platforms, a testament to Imperial pragmatism over elegance. Alien soldiers swarmed the grounds in disciplined patterns, some in massive power exosuits, others flanked by drone escorts. Amid them, Ilara's lean frame seemed almost ghost-like, unarmored, unaugmented, unimpressed. Lieutenant Coran of the Avarak Corps awaited her, his rigid, wing-sheath form bristling with irritation. His species were hawk-faced, all gold eyes and narrow pride. "You are Earth Sniper?" he asked flatly, extending neither greeting nor hand. "Yes, sir," Ilara replied, her voice calm but resolute. "I was told Earth sent their best." "I suppose we will judge that in time," Coran said, turning on his heel. "Follow. Your presence has logistical implications." As they walked through the base, Ilara noticed the glances, the barely stifled laughter. One Trident pointed at her rifle case, compact and low-tech by Imperial standards, and smirked. Others whispered in standard tongue, ensuring she would hear. The word primitive came up more than once. They reached the training range, a high-walled enclosure fitted with autonomous targets and variable gravity zones. Dozens of soldiers were already present, some recalibrating plasma rifles that glowed like miniature suns, others discussing neural targeting syncs. Coran raised his voice. "Attention. Earth's representative, Staff Sergeant Mendez, will demonstrate her marksmanship." A low murmur rippled through the group. A few soldiers stepped aside, barely hiding their amusement. "You will fire at those 5 drone targets," Coran instructed, pointing to distant objects hovering in irregular motion. "Standard settings." Ilara nodded and knelt. She unclasped her case, revealing an unassuming rifle, no plasma, no AI assistance. The alloy was matte black, earth-forged and battle-worn. Some laughed openly now. "Does it require combustion?" Someone joked. Ilara loaded the magazine without a word. She adjusted the scope manually, calibrated by instinct and decades of practice. Then she breathed in, letting the noise fade into the background. On her exhale, she fired. The first shot clipped a moving drone at the edge of its arc. The second sliced through a gravity-warped path to strike dead center. 3 more shots followed, each more improbable than the last. Perfect hits against impossible motion. Silence reigned. The last target fell in a puff of smoke, its trajectory cut mid-curve. Ilara stood, reloading with practiced ease. She didn't look around. She didn't need to. Coran's jaw clenched. "Acceptable," he said tightly. "Your results will be logged." The crowd began to disperse, but the murmurs were no longer mocking. They were uncertain, unsettled. Later, in the barracks, Ilara found her assigned bunk tucked into a shadowed corner of the alien-designed dormitory. Her cot was narrower than standard, the ceiling too high, the air slightly too thin. She sat on the edge and removed her boots, her thoughts drifting, not to the range, but to the freezing cliffs of Patagonia, where she'd once lain for 23 hours in a blizzard waiting for a warlord's convoy. There had been no drones, no spotters, just patience, breath, and trust in her eye. The door slid open behind her. One of the Trident, Zurich, she recalled, stood in the threshold. "You hit that last drone on a curve no Avarak could track," he said, less amused now. "How?" Ilara didn't smile. "I didn't track it. I listened to the wind, watched the light bend off the casing. Guessed where it would think it was safe. Zurich grunted. We rely on predictive systems. I rely on my gut. He watched her for a beat, then nodded slowly. Still looks like a toy. It only needs to look like a bullet to the one it hits. After he left, Elara lay back and stared at the ceiling. The outpost lights dimmed to simulate night, casting the room in cool blue. Her limbs were heavy, but her mind was sharp, measuring angles even in rest. They would never say out loud, not yet, but the seed of doubt had been planted. The Galactic Empire's finest had seen a glimpse of what a human sniper could do without machines, without augmentation. Just a rifle, just an eye, just will. They could laugh again tomorrow. She wouldn't mind. They wouldn't laugh forever. A holographic map flickered to life in the command tent, casting pale green light over the gathered soldiers. Mountains, ravines, and thermal spikes lit up with coded markers. Elara stood among the Imperial unit, her arms crossed as the briefing officer gestured toward a red zone pulsing like a wound on the terrain. Vector 7's wastelands, the officer began. Magnetic instability renders aerial drones useless. Orbital scans are blind. We've confirmed the Zarn insurgents are dug in beneath this ridge, fortified, shielded, and invisible to standard optics. The Empire has lost 3 units attempting extraction or elimination. A tried-any sergeant clicked his tusks. Why not orbital bombardment? Too many civilian shelters buried in the crust, the officer replied. The mission is precision engagement. Eliminate the rebel commander, retrieve intel. Minimal exposure. Lieutenant Coron's golden gaze swept across the assembled squad. You all know why we were chosen. We're adaptable, high discipline, and capable of operating without tech support. He didn't look at Elara when he said it, but the pause was enough. She noticed. The team began reviewing formation assignments and loadouts. Elara approached her locker and opened it without ceremony. Her rifle sat inside, alongside a compact Earth design field kit. Manual scopes, friction boots, analog navigation gear. No drones. No AI. No augmentation. Coron passed behind her. Primitive weapons won't help you in the wastelands. Neither will dead tech, she replied, not turning. He didn't respond. The tent buzzed with tension as the soldiers prepped for deployment. They launched before dawn, 6 soldiers in a low-profile transport that skimmed just under the ion ceiling. The skies above them churned with static interference, crackling against the hull. The drop point was a cratered ridge on the edge of enemy territory, surrounded by collapsed stone arches and sulfuric vents. The air was dry, heavy with the scent of mineral decay. As boots hit dirt, the squad spread out, weapons drawn. Zurich took point, his massive frame moving with unexpected agility. 2 Avrak sharpshooters took the flanks. Elara kept the rear, her steps quiet, deliberate. She was scanning the ridge when the first shot cracked the silence. One of the Avrak collapsed in a burst of arterial spray. No warning, no sound of approach. Sniper, Coron shouted, diving for cover. The squad scattered behind rocks and broken debris. Another shot rang out, clean, controlled. The second Avrak dropped with a gurgling choke. Elara ducked behind a shattered beam and adjusted her scope, peering into the shifting terrain. There, a heat shimmer too deliberate to be wind. She fired. Dust kicked up where her bullet struck metal. The opposing sniper vanished. They're embedded deep, she said over comms. Smart. Heat baffles and real cover. Not like your simulations. Zurich snarled. How do you see that with no visor? I see better without interference. The squad moved in tighter formation now, slower, more cautious. As they advanced to the jagged valley, they encountered rigged traps, trip sensors disguised as rock formations, shifting ground plates designed to collapse under armored weight. Twice, Elara caught the signs just in time, pulling soldiers back from the brink. Coron grew more agitated with each narrow escape. Your instincts don't override protocol, Earthling. They're not instincts, Elara snapped. They're experience. They reached a narrow canyon. The walls sloped like a funnel. Elara stopped. We're being herded. Koran ignored her and signaled the advance. She hesitated, then followed. The ambush was textbook. Plasma fire from above, slugs from hidden holes in the rock. Chaos erupted. One Tridani went down screaming, molten shrapnel embedded in his torso. Koran's comms flared with orders that made no tactical sense, barking back and forth amid growing static. Ilera dragged Zurich behind a broken slope and returned fire, pinpointing the muzzle flashes from her scope. Calm, methodical. 2 targets dropped before their attackers began to retreat. When the dust cleared, only 4 of them were left. Koran stood slowly, his feathers caked in ash, his visor cracked. We've lost our flanks. Comms are compromised. We go to fallback position, Beta. No time, Ilera said. They've boxed us in. Zurich grunted in agreement. We're surrounded. And that ridge, he pointed with blackened claw, that's where they're broadcasting from. Koran eyed the slope, its top hidden behind a distortion field. Too far. No visual. And we can't approach without being spotted. You don't have to, Ilera said, kneeling. She unpacked her rifle, checked the scope. I can take the shot. The other 2 stared at her. You can't even see the target, Koran barked. I don't need to see him. I know where he has to be to keep line of sight. Wind steady, about 6 knots southwest. Elevation difference, maybe 700 feet. Thin air. Bullet will arc right, drop just a little faster than her standard. You're guessing. I'm calculating, she said, adjusting the sight. You don't trust me. Fine. But if I don't take that shot, we're not leaving this canyon. Zurich looked between them, then nodded once. Let her try. Koran said nothing, but he didn't stop her. Ilera lay prone, dug her elbows into the dust. Her breath slowed. Time dilated. The sound of the canyon faded to a low thrum in the back of her skull. She felt the wind ripple across her cheek, tasted iron in the air. 1 shot, 1 chance. She squeezed the trigger. The bullet cut through the air, silent and unseen. A half-second later, the distortion shimmered and collapsed. A Zarn body fell forward from the ridge, limp. His signal transmitter tumbled down the slope. Zurich exhaled. Target neutralized. Koran stared at her rifle, as if seeing it for the first time. Ilera stood, dusted off her gear, and began walking. Come on. Their fallback route will be collapsing. We have 15 minutes before they seal the tunnels. None of them spoke as they followed. Behind them, the wind picked up, scattering the dust over empty shell casings. The ridge overlooked the basin like a crumbling crown, jagged and half-shrouded in heat distortion. Ilera dropped to one knee, unpacking her rifle with the care of a surgeon laying out tools. Her gloves moved with precise efficiency. Check bolt, clean chamber, adjust scope. The others stood behind her, the silence between them stretched taut by disbelief. There's no line of sight, Koran said, gesturing toward the horizon. You can't even see him. Ilera didn't look up. I can see enough. Below, the Zarn compound pulsed faintly beneath the shimmer of their deflection field. It was nearly invisible, designed to fool both scanners and the naked eye, but Ilera saw the outlines, the pattern in the shimmer, the faint stutter where the field clipped the terrain unevenly. A mistake born of arrogance. She marked it in her mind. Zurich crouched beside her, eyes scanning the valley. Even if you make the shot, we can't confirm the kill until we reach the site. You'll know, she replied, voice low. He'll stop moving the pieces. She steadied her breathing, letting the wind flow past her face. The planet's air was thinner than Earth's, colder too, and it tugged gently at her cheek like an unseen tide. She adjusted for it. Subtle correction left. Slight elevation shift. Koran paced behind her, armor plate scraping with every step. You're gambling lives on a single bullet. Ilera pressed her cheek to the stock, aligning the scope with that stuttering shimmer. I don't gamble. I decide. The ridge fell silent. Even the wind held its breath. In her mind, she wasn't on Vecker 7. She was 16 again, lying in a bombed-out church bell tower in Caracas, watching a hostage-taker shift between cracked stained glass. Her hands had shaken then. They didn't now. Now she was forged iron, every nerve tuned to a singular purpose. She exhaled. The world narrowed. Through the distortion, a shadow moved, slight, unintentional. A brief reveal behind the cloak. The glint of metal, a flash of pale skin, and the unmistakable pause of someone giving orders. She had him. She squeezed the trigger. The shot rang out like a whisper lost of wind. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the shimmer on the ridge fractured, collapsed, and dissolved like morning frost. A figure toppled from the platform behind it, arms limp, body crumpling in unnatural silence. The command node burst into sparks. Coran's mouth opened, then closed. His voice failed him. Ilara stood slowly, brushing dust from her knees. Target down. You can confirm it yourself or start moving before reinforcements flood the gap. Zurich let out a sharp, bark-like laugh. You just broke the Zarenchan command with one shot. They did it to themselves, she said, slinging her rifle. They assumed I couldn't. They moved quickly, cutting across the slope while the enemy forces scrambled in disarray. Without leadership, the Zarn assault scattered like panicked insects. A few engaged them briefly, disorganized, confused, but the squad moved through them with precision. Ilara called flanks, signaled shifts in cover, predicted ambush points before the others even sensed danger. Coran, to his credit, stopped arguing. He followed her lead. They reached the collapsed communications tower, where the rebel commander had fallen. The body lay in the dust, glassy-eyed, a deep crimson wound with a round had pierced the skull through reinforced plating. Zurich kicked the ruined transmitter aside. Confirmed, he said. You didn't just kill their leader. You silenced every command relay in this quadrant. Coran knelt beside the corpse, inspecting the entry wound. I thought it was impossible. That shot, it defied known targeting models. No, Ilara said. It defied yours. He stood, staring at her now with something unreadable in his expression. Not respect, not quite, not yet, but the first, hesitant step toward it. The evac beacon was set, and the extraction shuttle arrived in minutes, touching down with a hydraulic hiss. The squad boarded in silence. They were different now, thinner, dirtier, fewer, but not broken. As the shuttle rose above the canyon, Ilara looked back one last time. The wind rippled through the basin, swirling dust around the fallen enemy's stronghold. The landscape looked calm now, quiet, like the pause between thunderclaps. She sat near the back of the cabin, weapon across her knees, eyes half closed. Zurich took the seat beside her, letting his massive shoulders rest against the bulkhead. You knew you could make that shot, he said quietly. I had to, she replied. Coran remained at the front, still silent, still processing. The weight of what he'd witnessed hadn't yet settled. They touched down at the outpost to an unexpected sight. Soldiers gathered on the tarmac, not in formation but waiting, watching. Word had traveled faster than the shuttle. The impossible shot, the rebel fall, the human sniper who didn't miss. As Ilara stepped off, the crowd parted. No cheers, just the stunned silence of recalibration, the moment when belief shifts. She didn't stop, didn't smile, just walked past him with her rifle slung low and her eyes ahead, already considering the next mission, the next ridge, the next target who thought distance was safety. Behind her, Coran finally spoke. I owe you an apology. She paused but didn't turn. Keep it. Just get used to seeing clearly without a machine telling you how. Then she kept walking, and this time no one laughed. The storm began 2 days later, not of wind or sand, but of orders and silence. Imperial Command issued commendations with calculated reluctance. No ceremony, no speech. Just a single datapad slid across Ilara's table with her name carved into the electronic ink. Tactical excellence. Single-handed elimination of Tier 1 target. Recommendation for further field integration. She deleted the message without responding. The outpost had changed. Not in architecture. Its towers still rose sharp and functional, but in tone. Where once there had been condescension, now there was caution. Where there had been scorn, now there was distance, wary and edged with something close to awe. Soldiers nodded when she passed. Some even made room for her, in the training halls. But none came too close. That was fine. Zurich was the exception. He appeared beside her often, at mess on the range or during long, dull watches under an orange-tinged moon. He never filled silences needlessly. When he spoke, it was with weight. "They talk about you now like you're myth," he said once, tossing her a protein bar. "They talked before, just used different words." He nodded. "You change how they measure danger. Not with firepower, but with certainty. No one likes certainty they can't understand." She didn't reply, but the words stayed with her. Command reassigned them. A new operation, deeper into the outer veil, where insurgent remnants had gone aground in the fractured remains of a terraforming station. This time, Ilera wasn't merely a late addition. She was listed as lead sniper, with attached recon authority. Her designation on the manifest had changed too. Not Earth Sniper. Now, Asset Mendez. Tier 1 Kinetic. Quran met her outside the armory before departure, his bearing taut as ever, but something in his expression had softened. Less rigidity, more reflection. "You're being given full recon authority," he said, offering a data slate. "We'll follow your vectors this time." She took it, scanning the route overlay. "You sure you can stomach it?" He almost smiled. "I've come to appreciate outcomes more than pride." As the shuttle descended toward the terraformer ruins, the atmosphere around them crackled with interference. Sensors blinked off, then on, then off again. It was the kind of place where technology lied, where pulse rifles failed and automated targeting spun blind. The perfect ground for ghosts and snipers. They deployed at nightfall. The structure was a graveyard of steel. Fractured domes, half-collapsed towers, rusted panels clinging to broken supports. Heat signatures flickered beneath the ground, evidence of subterranean movement. Ilera knelt in the shadows of a broken airlock, scopes scanning the upper windows. "They're watching us." Zurich crouched beside her, breathing shallow. "You think they know what you did?" "They know someone made that shot." Rebels share stories too. Movement at the highest tower, a shimmer, then stillness. "They'll bait us," she said. "Try to pull us into their range. We stay wide. Flush them from cover. Take the high ground." They followed her orders without hesitation. Even Quran relayed commands through her positioning, falling into formation like water around stone. She placed soldiers like pieces on a board, each movement calculated to corral the enemy toward a kill box of her design. The rebels took the bait. They emerged in the tunnels under cover of dusk, expecting chaos. They found precision. Ilera took down 2 spotters before they'd fully breached the surface. Zurich neutralized a heavy gunner. Quran's unit swept the flank in perfect sync. It ended quickly, not with glory but with efficiency. The kind of battle that didn't make stories, but left no survivors. Later, under a fractured dome open to starlight, Quran stood beside her as she disassembled her rifle. His armor was scuffed, his feathers stained, but his voice was steady. "We received new orders. Permanent attachment to the cross-species tactical core." Ilera raised a brow. "You're requesting me." "I'm recommending you." "And they'll accept?" He hesitated. "They already have. You're not a novelty anymore. You're a precedent." She nodded, locking the bolt back into place. "Then let's make sure they understand what that means." The starlight cast long shadows across the ruins, silhouettes of wreckage and memory. The wind stirred through broken walls, whispering through steel like a name unspoken. Later, Zurich approached with a datapad of his own. Something came through the relay. From Earth. Ilera took it hesitantly. Messages from home were rare, usually heavy. She activated the pad. A single line of text appeared. They laughed at her. Now, they call her doctrine. She closed it, her lips thinning. "I didn't come here to be doctrine," she said softly. Zurich looked up at the stars. "You came to survive." The rest followed. They stood there a long time, silence wrapping around them like the cold. Far above, the stars of the Empire twinkled, unknowable and distant. But beneath them, in the ashes of fallen towers and silent kills, walked a woman with no augmentation, no synthetic nerves, no glory-chasing title. Just a rifle, just breath, just the unshakable belief that if she could see it, she could kill it. And now the galaxy believed it too.